Hello, you're listening to The Neil Lamptey Show. My name is Joey Crone and I'm joined by Paul Knowles.
Good evening.
And Neil Allison.
Hey.
Before we start talking about Cov, this is 4 years that we've been doing this now, and I still introduce you both and say goodbye to you both with full names. Do you think it's about time to drop that?
You did try, but I don't think you can help it.
Yeah, I'm not
a
convinced.
force of habit, isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe, I guess people should be familiar with you by now, shouldn't they?
Well, I don't know. After our radio performance, we should have a lot more fans, shouldn't we? Or fans, I say, as well.
I think we're
not just listeners, fans.
I think we're properly famous now. Yeah. That's the most important thing to get out of the way this week. We did have football though on Saturday. Does anyone remember that?
Yeah, it was back, wasn't it?
Genuine, proper football. And not only that, like better than genuine proper. Like genuine proper football is usually rubbish. This was like proper, like good football with goals and clean sheets and stuff.
I actually wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
I sat there and I was like, don't finish. 90 minutes is not enough. I want more of this.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, it felt like, if anything, towards the end of the game, albeit that Wigan had more of this sort of... once we got to 2-0, we seemed reasonably happy to sort of sit back. But even then, we had the better chances, didn't we? I think Maddison got one, hit the post, and Armstrong had one pushed onto the post.
I posted that Maddison clip earlier. It had about 5,000 loops. About 4,000 are probably him watching it himself.
Yeah, I noticed that he'd picked up on it himself.
Yeah.
Somebody was complaining, I can't remember who it was complaining about him finishing his tweets with hashtag JM10 all the time.
JM10.
But no, I'm all for that. Carry on.
Go for it, yeah. Create your persona, even if you are 18. Doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Confident.
I think for once we should be overwhelmed with options for moments of the week and a positive moment of the week. Paul, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, my moment of the week is not winning the lottery on Saturday. Because everything else that could go my way on Saturday seemed to go my way.
Great.
And you think, well, we won the Ashes when we were driving down in the car. And obviously, I would say that everything went our way against Wigan. I don't think there was, I will discuss later, I don't think there was a poor performance. I don't think there was anything which could have gone better, really.
Yep.
And after a day like that, you sort of think, well, surely the lottery's got to be mine after today. Because it was just one of those days, wasn't it?
I'll give you a free pair of shorts.
You did.
That was another highlight, presumably.
I got back in time to put Mary in her new home shirt, away shirt.
Oh yeah, of course.
So she was happy with that. So yeah, it was a perfect day all round, really.
Everyone's a winner, aren't they?
It's nice to have a referee who's really biased. That's really nice. You don't see that often.
I just thought it was a bit shit. I don't know.
Let's chalk that up, guys. We've been talking for less than 4 minutes and already Paul has put it down to something that wasn't an excellent display, but...
Oh, no, it was an excellent display of biased refereeing as well. I mean, it's like he did give us a lot of decisions and you thought, well, we're at home. We should be getting these.
He did, and I guess we'll come on to this, but I think I found that it was also... we looked to have at least 2 or 3 players now with a bit of nous about them and a bit of guile, at least, in Vincelo and surprisingly Lemairas, who was bent to the Richard Keogh School of Diving by the looks of it.
Did you see that on the Football League show?
No.
Jay Spearing went through and sort of fell over, and I'm not sure if he was claiming a penalty or not, and he had Richard Keogh stood over him giving him a dog's abuse. And you were like, really? Did you really? Anyway. So yeah, Saturday was, as we'll discuss, was pretty much perfect, wasn't it?
Yeah, fabulous. Neil, yours?
I feel like I had exactly the same Saturday as Paul, except I did win the lottery. I got 25 quid in my pocket, so victory, just at 1-up. Moment of the week, that's so many. It was a great day. Got my new seat. Am surrounded by lunatics, I'm afraid to say. So
Whereabouts you sat?
Oh God. 22, I think the block is. Oddly enough, I sat down and looked behind me, and there was the guy who basically sits behind me in my old seat. It's like he's just followed me around. I'm not sure what happened there, but that wasn't actually my moment of the week. My moment of the week was very obvious, but it was Armstrong's goal, which just set everybody up then for a really enjoyable day. And it was one of those where it was just so obvious that he was going to score it. He went through, and there was no doubt at all when he went through. He was just going to slot that one away, and it was just after that point, everybody, the crowd was going, and it was just, yeah, we were all set up then.
When you said Armstrong's goal, I was about to say which one, and it occurred to me that if I had have said it, that would have been the first time we could have possibly have said which one.
Yeah.
About a player's brace. When was the last time we had a player score 2 in the same game for us?
Reader.
Oh, what?
Debut last season.
You're joking.
I can't think of anybody else.
We went through an entire... Well, yeah, because that would have been a third of most players... of the upper echelons of players' total goals scored, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we didn't get many.
Oh, my word. Although saying that's portentous, presumably, isn't it? Because I've got a funny feeling that we could be spending the rest of this season having that as our only brace, but let's hope not. Maybe not, actually. And I guess, as it comes around to my moment of the week, I'm going to book the trend away from Armstrong because I think, Neil, you've referenced it. And I'd talk about, rather than it being a moment necessarily, I'd say the performances actually just the performance of Sam Ricketts, I'd say, who I think on another day, on especially another Cov day, where you hadn't have had a debut as eye-catching as Adam Armstrong's, I think there'd have been a lot of fawning over Sam Ricketts because I thought his defensive display was just exceptional. And I think Wigan, it's really, really difficult because as the game went on, we talked a lot about how good or bad Wigan had been. And it's really, really tough because I didn't think they were as outright terrible as teams like Crawley last season or some of the really totally bereft teams. And it's difficult to work out at what point is it that you're nullifying a team that may be okay or that the team is just crap. And I think there was a bit of both. But I think you have to give him the benefit of the doubt and say there was no getting through, was there? And I think Fleck and Winslow deserve some praise as well because the shape and whatever in that middle area of the pitch was impenetrable at times, wasn't it?
I thought it was fascinating just looking at the way we lined up a team. Just because it's one of those where we're fans, we're allowed to get a bit wacky with our team picks and our formations, and like loads of people were selecting teams beforehand, and it was just the idea or the notion of playing 4-2-4 in Coventry City playing 4-2-4, and it was a pure 4-2-4, a proper front four. It was phenomenal. I didn't expect it at all, and yet you think you're just going to leave yourself sort of vulnerable, but what we actually did was set ourselves up to our strengths and made them think about us, which is kind of the way it should be when you're at home. You should make the other team worry about what you're gonna do to them. And yeah, I thought it was stunning thinking by Mr. Tony Mowbray.
So I think that's interesting because who did the post-match interview? Was it Ricketts?
Ricketts, yeah.
Ricketts basically said that we set up to nullify Wigan. He basically said that Wigan play a box in midfield, and that's why we set up how we did, which is why you had Maddison and Lemaire's in the middle where they were. It's basically to stop Wigan's midfield box. And because I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying at all. It's interesting because we went on to win. We talk about us being positive and being an attacking team when both goals are really through attacks and turning the ball over high up the pitch. And it's just interesting how you sort of look at games based on the result as much as anything else.
Well, yeah, it's, like you say, it's kind of interpretation, isn't it? You see what happened, and I'm sure they did plan with Wigan in mind, but at the same time, it did play into our strengths. When Adam Armstrong on the right looked, unplayable at times, and Jim O'Brien on the left hand side, there was something about him playing there which seemed to work. He really put their right back under a lot of pressure. So it was just weird because it didn't logically make much sense. But as the game wore on, you could kind of see actually if those were our strengths and it worked for us. So yeah, I mean, I guess Tony was thinking, let's do something to nullify Wigan, but it kind of evolved into actually they struggled to cope with our shape more than we kind of struggled to cope with them.
We've talked ad infinitum over the last few years about what we consider to be the redundancy of attacking formations. Is there something to be said for what, and I think we've got to not be careful to be not creaming ourselves after one game, but Winslow coming in and Ricketts coming in and Johnson starting, is a really solid foundation. They are better players than we had last season, if you think of Johnson only being in and out last season. And that whilst we've said, Jim O'Brien, we wouldn't have expected him to play well on the left. Lemiris came in and looked like he'd got something about him, and Armstrong obviously did a lot of work and looks like a really talented lad. To what extent do you think it's almost redundant and unimportant how they are set up front, so much as having the confidence of having good players around them? Or let's not even go so far as to say good players, but as to say players that are playing well at that moment around them. Paul, thoughts?
Yeah, so I suppose you've gone a bit off where I was expecting to sort of how we were going to discuss the game. It helps when you've got attacking players who are the way that we have attacking players at the moment, who are all quite light, flighty players who like doing fancy touches. And as you remarked afterwards, Jim O'Brien pulled out some tricks we'd never seen before from him. And they were playing with, and I think we were all going to be quite surprised after the pre-season we've had, they were playing with a lot of confidence. But as you said earlier, Wigan are an interesting side because they've obviously made so many changes and they look like a team who weren't quite sure what they were trying to achieve. And I suppose that's one thing you could definitely say about Cov on Saturday. We were very well drilled and we were very organised and you could see what we were trying to achieve and we pulled it off. But also, there is that fact where we scored with our first chance and that settled everyone. It settled the crowd, it settled the team, and it sort of gave them a bit more confidence to sort of play without the ball for a period, which after we scored, Wigan did have a lot of the ball for the next 20 minutes. But because we'd already hit them on the break once, they were obviously cautious about being hit again. And when they saw how quick Armstrong was, I think having that player of that pace does put doubts in your mind, and it does change how you defend and what line you take, because you're obviously concerned that the guy's blistering, and especially coming from that wide right position where he's not really up against the person he's going to be going through on goal against as he swaps from full-back to centre-half.
Neil, do you want to pick it up from there? Do you want to talk to us about Armstrong's performance and his position? Because it was, I think everyone agreed that it was quite the performance, but I think the nature of it is worth discussion at some length. And I think hand in hand with that is the positions that he took up in and out of possession.
Well, yeah, it kind of makes sense when you look back at it. We created that sort of team dynamic. Like you were saying about, you can put players in positions that sometimes it doesn't work, but that because of the player he is and the pace he's got, having him that high up on the right-hand side, it set us up. And I guess that's where the value was. You could almost imagine if we were playing pure 4-4-2 and he was being asked to defend as you would do a right winger, get back, get forward, it wouldn't have lent itself to quite the same performance. I'm sure he would have had a good game because he seems to be a decent player, a very good player. But because he was given that licence, and it was such an odd thing to see, just a bank of four at the back, those two in the middle, and a pure line of four people up front. It was so interesting because you don't see that very often. And I think that's where, and also what was interesting was the interchanging. So not just Armstrong, but at every point during the game, they each played on either wing and moved into the middle. There was no settling down into sort of a routine. It was kind of like, okay, right, we've played 10 minutes, now let's switch it around. And you'd see O'Brien was on the right-hand side. You'd see Maddison drop deep. You see him move over to the right. And it was just that interchanging of, it was such a fluid unit, which I guess you can put some of that down to confidence. Obviously, they started to recognise that they had good ball players on the pitch. They had pace to send through. But also, I think the pitch helped. Having such a high-quality pitch with players who want to be able to control the football, that combination seemed to work perfectly. And aside from Rickett's very first touch of the match, which was a bit of a shocker, there weren't too many poor touches in that match, but everybody seemed to be on it. And it was just, I think everything went for us, but I think much of that came down to the shape that we created ourselves. And, the players in that shape made it happen. It didn't just fall like that. The players, it happened for a reason, and that was most impressive to me, and that's what was most enjoyable to watch as well. Because we're all used to Tony Moby going gung ho, when we're losing 10 minutes to go and stuff. He will always throw 5 on, but This was gung-ho, but in a weird way. It was kind of controlled gung-ho, which is a complete contradiction, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's kind of, we were four up front, and yet it made sense. So it kind of makes you wonder whether more people shouldn't be going four up front. But let's not get too excited. It probably won't be the same formation in the next match.
Talk to us about the other debutants that were on show. I'm sure that anybody that wasn't at the game will want to know more about people like Vince Lowe and Ricketts. What did you think of those?
Yeah, I mean, let's pick up on Ricketts because, like you say, he stood out at the back as a leader, but a controlled leader. It was I came out the match actually having more focus on Reeder Johnson, who I thought was a monster. He was his normal manic self.
He's a monster, all right. There's no two ways. But yeah, I mean that's not even up for discussion.
Yeah, but it worked. He was just dominant. I thought Reeder Johnson was phenomenal, but I started to think back over the match and the amount of times that Ricketts was just kind of eyeing things up. It wasn't anything crazy. It was just like watching the game, picking up for when Johnson would come out like a crazy man, he would just sort of drift into position, pick up anything, all the residual balls and everything. And it was just such a level of composure by someone, which was really, really impressive. And it's kind of exactly what we want him to do. And you get these sort of ideas in your head of who these players are over the course of time. So Ricketts is this sort of, I always saw him as this, he's an okay player, he can handle it in the Championship. But then I guess when you see them firsthand and you actually paying a lot of attention to their qualities, you get a better sense of who they are as a player. And he certainly showed that he's definitely got the leadership that we need from him. And I think it was a fantastic debut, and it was kind of what we needed to see as well. We wanted to see sturdiness in defence, and he certainly offered it. And then as you sort of move on throughout the pitch, you had Vincelo, who was just sort of metronomic. I think I used that word in my blog. He was just, it wasn't sensational. It wasn't one of those all muscle domineering displays where he's everywhere or anything. Like, he was just in his position, marshalled it perfectly, completely composed on the ball, did what he had to do. And in that formation, that's exactly what we needed. We needed someone who was going to be considered in everything that they did. And he was just that player that we wanted. We always want, this person who's going to sit and control the game. And for the last couple of years, John Fleck has tried to be that, and we've tried to focus on him being this sort of poor man's Paul Scholes. But when in reality, Paul Scholes has got a bit of bite, and that sort of Fleck hasn't got any bite at all. So when he's not on the ball, he's a bit of a waste of time defensively. So giving Fleck that license to be a bit more of the creative midfielder that he should be, and then just saying, Vincelo, your job is to dominate the midfield. And I thought he did it really well. It was another really good debut. And then who else do we have? Namiras, who is contentious performance really in terms of like people's perspective of what he actually did. There's good and bad about his debut. I wouldn't say bad in a strong sense. It's just like it wasn't. He's clearly not that strong, but he utilises that weakness in a really effective way. Like you sort of mentioned earlier, he drew a lot of fouls, a lot of dangerous fouls, and whether that'll go for him throughout the course of the season, we don't know. But that, as the performance goes, he had a lot of impact when he got the ball down. A lot of it came down to his great first touch again. He didn't give the ball away too much. He just looked a very creative player, and when he got the ball, you had to work to get it off him. You had to foul him pretty much, and that was a great great sign really. So I don't really know if playing him directly sort of up front is the best move for him over throughout the course of the season, but on that day it worked for him. He worked well with the other players, and he was just I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. And then obviously I think we've already spoken about Armstrong, but it was just, like I say, blistering. He really did catch the eye with that pace. I mean, we always love a bit of pace, and there's always different types of pace. You've got that leggy Laurent Delorge pace where nobody can catch him. You've got Callum Wilson, who kind of doesn't look like he knows how to run, but yet he's still faster than anybody. And then Armstrong, his legs are moving quicker than anything you've seen, and he just flies. Yeah, really impressive by all of them.
I think the Armstrong one was interesting to me. This might seem like an odd thing to pick out, but the thing that got me with Armstrong was watching his second goal back, and it was the urgency to get himself into the area in the way that he did. But it was more the urgency with which he pointed at where he wanted the ball. And I mentioned to a couple of people that I was stood next to sort of as the game wore on, that bearing in mind that we'd been saying that the main worry with him was that 18 years old, short on experience, you could have been forgiven for thinking that was a 25-year-old lad with bags of experience. The way that he conducted himself throughout the game, there was an intelligence about his pressing and the positions that he took up when we were out of possession, and his finishing was lightning. And admittedly, they weren't the most difficult chances in the world, but I think to get himself into the position that he did for the second one and demand the ball where it ended up going, and 10 points to Fleck actually, because that was good from Fleck. That was exactly where we want to see him operating, driving forward rather than having to think about being back, and to react quickly to the situation where we pinched the ball away. And him delivering a ball there is absolutely, I think everyone realises he's got that ability. And also then for the first goal, to not be caught offside, I think he timed his run perfectly well. Just seemed like a player who just seems wise beyond his years in a footballing sense.
It's hard to believe that him and Maddison are the same age. It just, not just because of the way they look, just in the sense of Maddison's still got that youthful sort of, I'm just going to do a load of stuff. But Armstrong, like you say, pointing to where he wanted to go, he felt a lot more sort of, I guess that's where he's come from as well. Premiership, he's had that experience of playing around, high quality players. So it will probably show at this level. But it was really, really good start for him.
Paul, what are your reflections on what we've discussed so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to give a lot of credit to Jim O'Brien for the first goal.
Yes.
Obviously, you don't score that goal unless that pass is perfect. And it was, the keeper didn't know whether to come or to twist or stick. And, he did finish it with a great aplomb. A lot of credit to John Fleck, who people know had a bit of a down on recently. I thought first 20, 25 minutes he was very quiet. And then he started to do that thing which I want from him, which is he started nicking the ball off the opposition. He doesn't need to tackle anyone. He just needs to stop the ball getting to his opponent. And he started doing that late on in the first half and for the majority of the second half, where he would just intercept the ball. And once you stay on your feet and you've got the ball at your feet, people like John Fleck are going to hurt the opposition. It's when he does his wild diving in tackles. It's not necessary. It's not him. Just read the game. And I mean, talking about reading the game, I mean, I said this to Joey as soon as he walked out. I mean, for me, I knew that Armstrong would get the plaudits, but without Sam Ricketts, I don't think we'd have won as easily as we did. I thought his reading of the game was impeccable. And you talk about Raider Johnson being Raider Johnson. There was a couple of times where he did his Raider Johnson thing, and alongside people like Webster and Martin, we probably would have been in deep trouble. But alongside someone who's got the intelligence to read the game, it didn't matter that Raider Johnson was out of position. And you saw a different game, but similar thing where one of the goals or the penalty that Chelsea conceded, you saw it and you're like, where the hell's John Terry? And you've seen that John Terry had gone to the halfway line and he'd done that Raider Johnson thing, but no one had read him pissing off. And I know it's a different level of football, but it is that sort of thing where if your centre-half's a bit erratic, you've got to be intelligent enough to read it. And Ricketts it's a difficult thing not to just run after the ball as well. To play centre-half, you've got to spend most of the game looking at the ball and thinking about where it's going to go. So to have someone who's come in and put that and assured a performance in when there were a couple of question marks was really nice to see. And then on top of that, I thought Winslow had a good game. I mean, Ramirez, I thought he did that thing that frustrates me a couple of times where he skinned his man, he got through goal side and then fell over. And I know he won 3 kicks, but other teams aren't going to let him get away with it. If they're going to foul him, someone's just going to kick him. And I thought one of the benefits we had of that game on Saturday was we played Wigan, who I thought treated us with an awful lot of respect. And they weren't a particularly nasty, niggly side, and they didn't kick us. And the question is, will our play... I know it's all these things are caveats. First game of the season, we played really well, and we beat Wigan, and we did deserve to. But there's part of you that go, well, if Wigan were a more established side, or if Wigan were a side who are a bit more League One in their approach, would Ramirez keep getting to the floor and keep getting free kicks? Because the referee, I mean, the Wigan players sort of let the referee basically do what he wants. We know at this level sometimes referees get a little bit of hassle from players. If people like Ramirez fall over 90% of the time, I don't think they're going to win that many free kicks, especially away from home. And I think he had to show more than that. and I don't think he did. I think he's a very showy player, but I don't think he actually produced anything in the game apart from a couple of free kicks.
I thought he had some nice moments actually. I know what you're saying about the strength thing, and it's only time that's going to show us just exactly how it works. Because, like you say, that ref helped him out a lot. We did get a lot of free kicks from him, but I don't know. I just, when you look at the small things that he does, so his touch, his vision, and one thing I sort of noticed was that he does keep hold of the ball longer than a lot of other players. He does like to play at his own pace, but maybe I'm being too generous to him, but I just still think for a debut, first game in this country, really, at first senior, I don't think he played for Spurs or anything like that. So I think he should be pleased with how what he did. He got on the ball a lot. He tried to play football. He made some really nice passes, and I think he just give him a little bit of time to grow. But
I'm not disputing. I just think it was, if you'd have picked someone's debut, you probably would have picked that Wigan team, who I think it'd be interesting to see how he gets on against Rochdale and Millwall, who I think will be slightly less forgiving when he keeps falling over. And I know it's always difficult because you stood there and everyone else is calling a foul, and you're like, but you've beaten your man, your goal side. Just go, because we don't have a lot of great height. I don't think our free kicks are going to be the greatest source of goals this season.
Really?
You're like, well, you've beaten your man. Why not? You've now got yourself, Maddison, Jim O'Brien, and Armstrong through against their defence. Trust that.
But he was fouled
every time.
I don't have a reference in my head, but foul a lot of the time he was sort of tripped.
There was one that was right, so we're sat in the corner underneath the scoreboard. There was one in the first half where undoubtedly. Now I'm gonna give you the situation and then give you my opinion on it. He was the ball had been played over the top, was sort of bouncing over. He brought it under control and just waited for the guy to come through, and effectively just jumped up in the air and let him go through him. And I guess I was about to say, I guess it's a foul. It's not really a foul. It just wasn't. He just knew that his best option there was to draw a free kick rather than... And he just jumped up in the air. When the guy ran into him, he didn't get pushed into the air. He literally just jumped. And then when the guy hit him, he just went flying. And you just thought, well... And we could see it better than the ref could because he would have had the man either side of him. And I thought he did that quite a lot. But the same words I'd say with Vincelo is we're damned if we've not needed a bit more... guile in this team, and what I guess nowadays gets called game management. And we talked about this on the day, if everybody was going to say let's not do it, then I'd be all for that. But that's not the real world. You do need a player who's going to do that. The other thing that I thought was brilliant about Lemaris was that, and I guess ultimately you could be like, well, why didn't he just pass it or whatever? But there were two moments where he was carrying the ball in their box, where on another day, he's just going to get fouled and get a penalty. I felt like he'd gone down quite easily a few times up to that point. They were terrifically cautious about getting in on him. And that either creates him the space to create something, or someone goes through him and we're going to get penalties. He will get us penalties this season. I'm absolutely convinced of it if he continues to play. But then saying that, I was convinced that Kevin Malaga was going to score 10 goals with his heading prowess, and look where that went.
Well, I think we also saw it happen towards the end of last season where James Maddison was being fouled and wasn't winning free kicks around the edge of the area, but he was getting those free kicks 10 metres further back towards our goal. And I think referees do, and we had the clearest one last season was young Ryan Haynes, where people were beginning to think he was a diver. He got mullered in the box and didn't win fuck all. And I think that's the other issue is you don't want to be. I think my problem is he went down. It seemed to me he went down quite a few times, and it's sort of, if you go down once or twice a game, that's fine. If you seem to be going down most times, you get the ball near the opposition box, you put in doubt in the referee's mind that they're always fouls. And I think you've got to vary it up. And I suppose my other one comment about him would be he seems to lack that ability to break away from someone. When Maddison did that drop the shoulder, the ball went through and then he went and hit the post, you saw that he has that ability to sprint 5 yards and get away. And because Lamar has never actually managed to break away from someone, maybe they were fouling him and I'm being really hard on him, but he never seemed to make that break. And you wonder maybe it's just a bit of lack of confidence in his own pace that he knows that he can't break away from someone. But it's all first game, isn't it? It's like we're all really happy. We've won really well, and there's no denying that. I thought Aaron Phillips, when he came on, was brilliant. I thought Stokes had a good game at left back. I know you two are a bit more and ahhing about his distribution, but I thought it's difficult when you're playing left back in a position where your nearest player is 60 yards further up the pitch. I think that's a difficult role, and especially when he's not like Aaron Phillips, who's a lot more boisterous on the ball and can carry the ball. I think Stokes is a bit more stoic in the way he plays. I think he had a good game, and ostensibly we kept a clean sheet, and I think defensively he did very well, which is his main attribute in this team at the moment with the way that we're playing. I thought there was no one in the team you really could fault, and it's a shame that Armstrong's not going to play tomorrow or tonight or whenever you're listening to this against Rochdale. It's a shame that someone else, by the sounds, is going to miss out. I understand it might be Vincelo, so that's going to be a shame because you want to see this team progress.
Is this thing about these players having knocks not a smokescreen to just put a weakened team out in a League Cup game?
Oh, maybe. I mean, it's a shame. It's one of those, isn't it? It's a shame because, and we discussed this in the last season when it was first muted about closing the stand, and we had 11,000 Cov fans in one block. And I think it's too early to judge. I mean, you're playing Wigan, who are, I know we sort of think Wigan a small team. They've only just got relegated from the Premier League. They did bring 2,500 of their own fans. It was a beautiful August day. A lot of people had already been in the pub. They'd seen us win the Ashes. It was a buoyant mood anyway. You saw this young team come out. They scored after 13 minutes with a beautifully crafted goal. And everyone's going, this one stand thing works. And you're like, oh, that's fine. But should we make that judgment next Tuesday against Crewe when there's probably only about 8,000 there? I think it's like everything. We have to put this in a box. This box was brilliant. We have to put it in that box. And it's a bit like that with the League Cup. It's like the next round, the Premier League clubs come in. Rochdale away is a difficult fixture. It's a winnable fixture. Why not just win that and then see who we get in the next round? Because we could have someone like Everton at home. And it's all those little steps which are, beat Rochdale. That keeps the win running. People want to come against Crewe because we've beaten Rochdale. Okay, Millwall's a difficult game, but Rochdale away, we can win that in the League Cup. Get a tie. Oh, we've got Everton away. Or Everton at home. That's great. We'll go to the Crewe game because it's all those little mementos.
Yeah, I've already seen people talking about let's lose tomorrow because we don't need any more games. And it's like, well, we've only just come back. We've had one game. We want to win matches. That's better than anything. Winning matches, regardless of what it is. It's like people who get through to the Europa League, whatever the hell it's called, and just like piss it away. It's like, what are you playing for? Why are you playing all season to like get into a competition and then just piss it away when you get there? It's like it's all about winning football matches, and you can have a small team and still win loads of football matches. Sometimes it becomes a bit of a myth, and I don't want us to get back into that Coventry mindset of just trying to manage expectation, because let's face it doesn't matter. Let's give this team the props for what they had a great performance, that they look like they could be a good team. Send them out and let's see them get another win.
Very well said. We seem to have naturally gravitated away from the Wigan game. Are there any of the thoughts that anybody feels like they have to get off their chest before we move on?
No, it was just that was an opening game of the season, as you almost like imagine them. Sunny, fans in a good mood, and a team winning. It was fantastic. I'm really glad to be back.
I think more accurately described as how you would imagine other teams having them that aren't.
Yeah, they have them a lot, don't they?
Yeah.
I think my final comment be there are quite a few players there, and I'm looking at people like John Fleck. You've set a very high standard. We know what you can achieve, and you've gone out and you've beaten. I think Wigan will probably. It might take a change in manager, but I think Wigan will have an all right season.
Yeah, I did.
I think there were periods where I thought they were controlling the game, and I thought there were periods where we controlled it, and I thought it was quite a good game after about the first 20 minutes. It was quite a good game to watch, but I think those players have set a high standard for themselves, and those are the standards we expect. They can't just be a one-off on a beautiful sunny day. They've got to be the standards that they want to achieve every week.
Yeah, final thing from me along that very line was Jim O'Brien's performance. Jim O'Brien last season got a bit of a reputation, I mean, albeit that he won our player of the season, got a bit of a reputation as being a sort of utilitarian runner who was quite functional above anything else. And I kind of thought he had a 6 out of 10 season last season where he was okay, but that not the quality of player that would be required if you were hoping to get out of a league. I didn't think Jim O'Brien was sensational on Saturday, but if he continues to perform like that, that is the standard of player that I would expect in a team that is capable of getting out of League One. Yeah. I thought his passing was good, his work rate was good, he showed some skills, and it's incredible to me to what, and it's speculation, but it's incredible to me to see what a team, what difference it makes to a team when it looks like they're playing with confidence and that it looks like maybe one of the two of the players that have come in might be good, but then we'll have to wait. we might have to wait.
I think
wait
there's
and see,
also, sorry, that my final on that point. I think there's also a thing with people like Jim O'Brien, because they're all action and everywhere. Sometimes they want to try and do everything. So you start seeing them appearing in places you don't want them to see because the team's struggling. I think in a decent team where we're better on the ball and winning, he doesn't have to feel like he has to be at right back and left back at the same time. And that, I mean, that's a big thing, isn't it? It's just sometimes people try too hard, and either they're kids or they're just people with lots of enthusiasm, maybe in a better side. And without the responsibility of being captain as well, he might be able to calm down a bit.
Only Covvect then.
Yeah.
Makes its triumphant return. Yeah, do you want to explain the new rules? Not that we ever got the old ones.
No, exactly.
Basically, the old rules, there was always 2 commentary questions on each round. That, because it was chuffing hard work, has been changed. So there's now 1 general football question and 1 commentary specific question. So whoever gets the commentary specific question in the first round gets the general football question in the second round. Comprende?
It's probably best you just have a tilt at it and we'll find out then.
Who wants to go
as
first?
you go along.
Neil, you go first.
All right, Neil, do you want the commentary specific question or the non-Cov question?
Oh, let's go Coventry.
All right. So what links these 4 things?
Okay.
1996-97 season.
Opening day victory.
No. 03-05 season? Probably is now. I don't think it is, though.
Yeah.
It'll be like all them Garys that time.
Sorry, can you tell me that? What was the one you just said? 03-05.
03-05.
03-05. That's 2 seasons. Okay, next one.
06-07?
That 03-05's confused me.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, it's 2 seasons.
2 seasons. Go on, give me the last one. I can't.
And this season, 15-16.
Bloody hell. What has happened? We've won a match. We've won opening game of the season. We had the highest attendance in the league on the opening game of the season.
No. Joey?
That was a good shout, Neil. Better than anything I can do.
Okay.
Red away shirts.
Good work.
No,
The 03-05 one was the Ajax shirt.
Right.
I remember, yes.
Yeah. 96-97, presumably the Czech effort.
Yeah.
So one that Zola wore at one time.
Yeah, and 06-07 was the one that the player who first comes to mind when I think of someone wearing it is Leon McKenzie.
Oh yeah, I
think Mifsud.
Yeah, Mifsud, Stephen Hughes maybe.
Yeah.
I recently joined a new five-a-side team recently and was told that the kit requirement was to wear red. And I was like, well, that's fine because I've got a red away shirt somewhere. And I tried it on and it was definitely 06-07. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame what time does to you, isn't it? Go on, Paul.
All right, so this is the general football. So what links these general football? What's the answer to this general football question? Tony Adams, 97-98.
No, go on.
Roy Keane, 98-99.
Is it final goal of the season?
No. Tony Adams, 01-02.
Go on.
John Terry 09-10.
Oh dear. So it's Adams,
Tony
Keane.
Adams 97-98.
Yeah.
Keane 98-99. Tony Adams 01-02. John Terry 09-10.
Oh dearie me, 9-10.
As in the 9-10 season.
Yeah. What was the year for the first one? 98-99?
No, 97.
97-98.
Keane was 98-99. Yeah.
Captains who have scored on the first and last day of the season?
No. Neil?
I feel like it might be complicated or more complicated than
it's
it.
really easy.
It's not, because in my mind it's sort of Premier League winning captains, but
Okay,
there's got
add
to be more
another
to it.
trophy to that.
So double winning trophies, double
Yeah.
winning captains.
The last 4 double winning captains.
Oh.
I know sometimes my questions are really difficult.
I was starting to get
I was trying to work out whether it was something to do with their initials, whether it was like the 95th and 96th letter of the alphabet somehow.
So it'd be
Or...
like
no, they were just
by a Premier League winning captain on a Tuesday or something like that.
oh, just double winning. Oh, okay.
Did you know the last 4 have been won by the team who played on Monday night, first game up?
Oh, really?
All right, Joey, you've got the commentary question now, haven't you?
Okay, yeah.
All right, John Fleck.
This is fourth in the thing,
Yeah,
isn't
what
it?
comes fourth?
John
Fleck.
I'm gonna say Jim O'Brien.
No. All right, Matthew Mansett.
Oh, okay. Jim O'Brien, Matthew Mansett.
No, John Fleck.
Oh, John Fleck, Matthew Mansett.
Yeah.
No, go on.
Danny Swanson. But who's fourth in that list?
Oh, dearie me. John Fleck, Matthew Mansett.
Danny Swanson.
Is this around perceptions of how fat a player is?
No.
Right, so it's Fleck, Mansett, Swanson.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to have to pass this over.
Neil?
So it will be. I'm going to say it will be someone from the team this weekend. I can just have a stab at a name. Vincelo.
No.
Is it
James Morris? It's James Maddison.
Oh, go on.
John Fleck was given the number 10 jersey, he was followed by Mansett.
Oh,
There we go.
Followed by Danny Swanson, and James Maddison's the only one
Doable, actually.
who puts his initials as MD10. Or JM10.
JM.
Yeah. Where did MD come from?
I have no idea. He's like Doogie Howser MD.
Okay.
Youngest doctor in the ward. All right, Neil, this is your general football question.
Let's do it.
What comes fourth in this list? Ryan Giggs, 141.
Alan Shearer, 234.
No. Raul, 142.
Messi.
No. Iker Casillas, 150.
Okay. Fourth, fifth, fourth. I will know this.
Yeah,
I just can't. Who is it? Can you go through those again, and hopefully by the end of it, I'll know the answer.
Ryan Giggs, 141. Raul, 142. Iker Casillas, 150. Or Iker Casillas.
Maldini?
Nope. Joey?
is it CR7?
Nope. It's Xavi with 151.
Ah, bastard.
These performances in the Champions League?
Yep. Appearances in the Champions League.
Bloody hell.
This is a right holiday for you, this is, isn't it? With the overall football questions taking a feature in there.
Well, I thought, to be honest, they're going to get both of those.
We should have got them, actually.
We should, yeah, it's
a
just
little
a
bit more
case of,
knowledge.
yeah,
But
well,
I was thinking Gary Neville. I don't know where that came from.
But I know it shouldn't be the way. The commentary questions I always think are going to be slightly hard. But I think the general football questions should be sort of doable.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be people shouting at their phones, isn't there, with those two specifically. But yeah, Neil, I was with you. I was going Maldini in my head first off. Oh dear. Presumably that means that Ronaldo's probably scored more goals than Giggs has played games in the Champions League, having only played 140.
Ronaldo's got 77 goals. He's level with Messi.
Jesus.
I would have thought it'd be more than that.
Neil Allison, the only person disappointed with Cristiano Ronaldo's goal rate.
No, I was expecting like 200 or something.
Is that it?
Like that,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a bit shit.
Well,
Only
if you
77.
Even if you reach the final, you only play what, maximum of 13? No, is it 13 games? Probably not even that many, is it?
There's no logic to football. Is that
There is. It's just the Champions League slightly difficult to score in compared to La Liga.
Right, let's do some Rochdale preview and some Millwall preview. These previews are brought to you by @SideSammy, which is don't laugh, which is Dominic Jerams on Twitter. Previously of this podcast, it's mainly he's asked that we sponsor. It's just a coincidence that these look specifically like the thoughts that he put in his blog that time.
aside from that you're reading?
Yeah, although I am going to say that I disagree with him on some points, but let's find out what those are because Rochdale.
Sorry, before you start, I've got one question.
Go on.
Are you still worried about Darius Henderson tomorrow night?
Yeah, so thank you to Charlie Harris for pointing out the deliberate mistake that I was checking to make sure you're all listening the other week. Yeah, I called him Darius Henderson about 10 times, but actually it's Ian Henderson. And I can't even say that it was a momentary aberration and one that I already knew. I've been talking to a mate of mine who's a Rochdale fan for about a year about Darius Henderson, and he's not once corrected me.
He's so polite.
Yeah,
Leaving you to it, yeah.
I just thought it was him. I don't know where that means that Darius Henderson is, because he was at Millwall, wasn't he, for reasonably recently. I don't
Use
know.
the internet, Joey.
Well, no, I've already got 50 pages open to try and do my live preview.
Aren't you doing your Millwall preview?
No, that's Rochdale preview saying that Ian Henderson, who's their striker that got 22 goals last season, I think he was the third or fourth top scorer in League One last season. I was saying that he was, I'd confused him with Darius Henderson and then said that he in fact had played for Millwall. Links all round. Yeah, so Rochdale are good. We talked about this earlier in the pod. They are way more settled than Wigan are as a team. Very few ins and outs over the last few years, despite the fact that, first of all, they got promotion to League One from League Two. And then subsequently last season, they had their, Matty Dunn? Anyone? Who'd scored a bunch of goals for them, and I think Scott Hogan had left. But aside from that, they've been able to keep hold of people like Peter Vincenti and a couple of others that have been good for them. Under Keith Hill, they are really solid, reasonably physical. I don't think that they're a real killer team, but they are one of the more physical sides in the league and one of the more committed, but I would say more than anything, very pragmatic and very, very well organised, and one that will be in stark contrast to Wigan, who didn't really look like they knew what they were trying to achieve yet. No. They're going to come very seriously at us. They come off the back of an opening day 2-0 win against Peterborough, where Ruben Noble Lazarus scored after we took the piss out of his name last week. And Callum Camps, who we didn't take the piss out of his name last week, although maybe should have. He got on the score sheet as well. They're looking good. They're a good side. They signed. I think we talked about it briefly last week. They signed Jim McNulty from Barnsley, I think. Who's a good player, and I'll tell you exactly where I think, without any help from anybody, they will finish in the league. I think they'll finish mid-table. It's actually where Side Sammy thinks they'll finish. I think they'll finish higher than that. But do you want to give us some predictions for tomorrow's game, Neil?
Does this go to extra time and pens?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Does it? I reckon that's going to happen.
You reckon?
I reckon it's going to be 1-1.
I haven't checked yet that we can definitely get the tram or train back. So, and I'm guessing if it does go to extra time penalties, then I definitely won't be able to, which is going to be shit. So I really hope it doesn't. You're saying that it's going to go to 1-1 and extra time and pens?
And pens. And then it's in the lap of the gods, but we'll win.
It's a lottery, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what you've got to remember when it goes to penalties.
You can never recreate that pressure, Joey.
It's a lottery. Paul?
I honestly don't know. I just have no idea after how well they played on Saturday. Obviously Armstrong going out, there is no direct replacement for him.
Yeah.
Because you noticed when George Thomas came on, you just saw that he just isn't as quick as Armstrong is, and that's obviously not. He's obviously got other features of his game. He's obviously very talented, but just having that pace up front when we don't have any physicality just gives us something else. I worry that George Thomas coming in would probably not give us the outlet that we had and put the fear into Rochdale, which means we might have to go for Tud Guy, which puts the fear into me. I'm going to go 2-1. I'm going to go. I'll be positive 2-1 Cov.
Wow, it's quite a turnaround from last Monday, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've seen us win since then.
Yeah, true. I'm with you on this one. All of my expectations have gone out the window after such a positive performance on Saturday. I'm going to say 2-1 to Rochdale still for this, but I don't think that's anything to be too downhearted about if it does come to pass. It may just be an indication of a team that are probably a year or so ahead of us in terms of organisation. And a team that I don't think you could say that about. Sorry, and that's a description that I don't think you could apply to many teams in League One. I think they'll do well. Ultimately, I think the problem with Rochdale is that every time they do well at the start of the season, you can guarantee that they'll lose the player that it's mostly down to. Even if it's not a mass exodus, they probably always will be put back in their place through the necessity of finance. Millwall then. Let me talk to you about their star player, who I consider it to be Najim Abdu, who is a tough defensive midfielder, something of a hero at Millwall. I've always said. I think he'll be the leader of this young team. Key signing, a guy called Tony Craig that I've heard of, who's an experienced and versatile left side defender, who, if I remember rightly, is returning to the club. I'd say play a key role as an older head and captain. For me, Millwall, I think, all jokes aside. So again, Sammy's predicted upper mid-table for Millwall, which I think is probably a touch conservative as well. I think when we talked last week about Wigan being a team that we would want to play at this time of the season because of that negative momentum that you get having come down from the Championship, I think the only caveat to that as an idea is that a team like Millwall can buck that trend because they had been dead and buried for quite some time. And when Neil Harris took over, it seemed like they galvanised slightly and nearly kept themselves up. And the strength of feeling, the sort of the spirit there seems to have increased. And Steve Morrison returned there. Presumably this had been written pre-Steve Morrison signing. He's back there and scored on his debut. And that's a player that was in the Premier League 2 years ago, I think.
Norwich.
At Norwich.
Was it 3?
Maybe 3, maybe 2. But a player that undoubtedly is good enough for not only good enough for League One, but at Millwall specifically. I mean, he is Neil Harris Jr., isn't he? I think. So I think they'll do really well this season, and I quite like Millwall as well. I really liked them when it was Kenny Jackett in the Championship. They got a really really good team when it was James Henry and what's his face, that he got that mad name up front. Oh, that's going to annoy me. I can't think of it. Never mind. I'll ask Side Sammy and just put it in. I'll ask him to record a bit and just drop it in as my voice. Can we have some predictions for Millwall, please? Neil.
I'm happy that Armstrong will be back. I think that will be important. And I know what you were saying about Millwall. I have some concern about playing them, and I can't entirely put my finger on it. But I don't want to say we're not going to win because I feel like we need to get off to a really good start. So I'm just going to forget everything and just say we're going to win 1-0.
Lovely stuff, Paul.
Before I've got a lot of time for Neil Harris, who's not only Millwall's leading goal scorer of all time, but also had testicular cancer and obviously made a return to playing after that. And I think you've got to give certain people in football deserve a lot of credit. And when you look at what he did, he obviously loves Millwall, and everything that goes with it. A lot of kudos to him. And he was once absolutely awesome for me on Champ Manager, which also helped. Again, it's very difficult. I didn't really see anything of Millwall last season. They've got to be one of the favoured teams to go back up. They don't appear to have lost many players. Wasn't really listening to Joey. They might have done. It's difficult. I think it's another team who I think they can beat us, which allows us to play on the counter attack, which I think will be beneficial for our team at the moment. I'd be a bit concerned if we're playing against a team who we were expecting to just go and hammer, who might sit back and nullify the space. So with the opportunities and Armstrong being rested after not playing tomorrow, I think we could sneak that 1-1-0.
Yeah, I agree with you on the counter-attacking thing. I think they will definitely be on the front foot at their first league home game, and because they're the team that came down, and I think that will play to our favour. I just think it will be, again, very, very tough, very, very physical battle. We keep saying about a physical battle, but typically a physical battle means a very slow team, and that you would hope that it swings and roundabouts. You'd think that if there's a Millwall podcast, they might be talking about that we can exploit them with pace, but you never know which way these things will go. I would say a creditable 1-1 draw and a platform to build from. So that's all the predictions done, that's all the preview done. I think that might be everything done. So have we got any other business before we wrap things up, gentlemen?
No, same time next week. Same results again. That'd be all good.
Yeah, I think that'd be very, very good. Okay then, so if you want to get in touch with us, the Twitter is @NeilAmptyShow, the email address is neilamptyshow@gmail.com. A reminder for anybody listening to this on Tuesday morning or afternoon that the Manchester Coventry City Supporters Club will be back open and in force tomorrow evening. If you fancy going to the Rochdale game and you haven't got anyone to go with, give us a shout either via email or via the Twitter and get involved. There's going to be a good few of us going from Manchester tomorrow. And apart from that, I think that's everything. So thank you very much, Paul, as you are without a surname.
Oh, cheers. Thank you.
And Neil, as you are.
Thanks.
And thank you, listener. Bye-bye.